sure she is not alone. That's when she gon' hit the phone. Tell me what's been going on. Tell me what's been on her mind, and I've been climbing up some more. Tired of the normalcy. 9 to 5 is on the beat. You smaller shit and co-workers talking tip. Burning phone, don't call the crib. Wavering on that jealous shit. He bothers her only kid. That's why my homies let him live. But Friday night, he gon' make them babysit. We gon' blow that haze a bit and get away from all of this. See, it's not right, but it's okay. You see, our love just not the same. Cause any woman lacking love's entitled to a getaway. My game tight. My game right. Don't need to know her name until I know her taste right. Hey y'all, come on in, come on in. How y'all doing today? This song is called Downtown by, or is it The Trip? Hold on. It's The Trip, Downtown by Wale. How y'all doing? What's going on? I know it ain't the stallion. You know it's your girl. Y'all can tell I watch too much TikTok. Yes, hit your like button on the way in. You decided to take a break. What's up, King? Hey, Kahersna. Oh, dang. I'm sorry about that, Patricia. Yes, yes. Come on in the room. Hit that thumbs up button on your way in. And we'll get started momentarily. Finally, early on the live. Hey, boo. Yes, finally. Welcome, welcome. Hey, Rachel. So, I didn't want to make this video too long, but I'll go back and probably put the timestamps for those of you guys who are watching this on the playback, so you can just get into the nitty-gritty. Because as you can see today, like so, we're going to be talking about transiting South Node essentially, but this time it'll be moving from Sagittarius to the sign of Scorpio. And I got some things I want to dissect, which is very interesting because Scorpio does deal with dissection. So, very fittingly, we're going to dissect some things as it pertains to having Scorpio on the South Node, especially for this upcoming transit. Now, for most people, they say the transit takes place in January of 2022, which is right around the corner. And it's going to be in Scorpio for about 18 months. Like most, nodal transits do. But I, according to my personal records, noticed that the transit actually activates in December, like December 22nd, December 21st, somewhere in around that region. So it's like we could be experiencing the effects a little sooner than most people would probably think. Because I want to say they said, like, if you look online right now, most places will probably say, like, oh, January 18th, 2022. But according to my software, when I was taking a look at the upcoming transits, this South Node is going to be in effect, like I said, on the 21st. I want to say 21st or 22nd of December. Don't quote me. So right around town. Right around time for Christmas. Right around town. It's been a long day. So I'm going to let some more people join and then I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Okay. Also, let me go get a charger because y'all know I'm good for letting my computer die mid live stream. Mid live stream. Hey, Marilyn. Yes, yes, for a Scorpio North and South node. So if you're a Scorpio North node, you will be experiencing your inverse nodal return, which is like basically like the half point, the check mark before your full nodal return. And of course, if you are a Scorpio South node natally, this period of time will obviously usher in your nodal return. And the thing about nodal returns and even inverse nodal returns is that once again they could be like karmic checkpoints that really um basically reroute you towards like the direction of your north node, or they're supposed to. So a lot of the themes that could be associated with your nodes, and of course this would also have to factor in the house placements of your nodes, but those are themes in your life. Like you can experience like karmic or fated events or things that could happen, or circumstances that could be very symbolic of your node. So an example, and y'all know I always use my personal life as an example. I'm a Cancer South node, and I remember for my last nodal return. Well, I'm gonna do the one before last, because they come every, I want to say 7 years. We have a nodal return, if I'm not mistaken. Let me verify. Once again, don't quote me. I think it's every 7 years. But point is, for a a specific year, and I think one of them could be around 21. I had my daughter, which is a monumental event. Cancer does deal with motherhood. So me having my daughter during Cancer season, during my nodal return, it was a significant event in the fact that it ushered in a lot of that karmic debt that I had in terms of motherhood, being pregnant. Pregnancy was so hard for me, giving birth. And then I had like an existential crisis that propelled me into that Capricorn North Node energy, because as soon as my daughter was born, me and her father broke up. So what is that? Capricorn, that Capricorn of the North Node, being alone, right? Um, maybe even having to be like a struggling single parent, those kind of vibes. So I said all that to say is, depending on whatever sign your nodes are in, um, experiencing your nodal return, even your inverse nodal return, will definitely trigger some of that karmic debt. So you can definitely be on the lookout for experiences that pertain a lot of the themes associated with your nodes, basically. Okay. You're having your nodal return when you look at a transit chart and the transiting node is at the exact degree. Like literally, the transiting node is crossing over your natal node. So, for example, once the Scorpio South node makes its way, or excuse me, the South node makes its way at, like, say, the 0 degree of Scorpio, right? For those people who actually have their South node at the 0 degree of Scorpio, boom, here you go. I mean, although for what it's worth, no matter what degree your South node is in, you'll probably feel it as long as the nodes are still in the same sign. But to be concise with it, the degree of the node is supposed to be the exact same as your natal node placement. So if your south node is or if your nodes are at the 14th degree, right? And you got Scorpio at the 14th degree sitting on your south node, then I mean, yeah, you could kind of look forward to still feeling some of these effects in terms of having your nodal return the entire time transiting south node is in Scorpio. But whatever event or situation, whatever fated situation that could really impact your life may, I guess you could say, be activated. That's a better way to put it. It may activate around the time that the node is exact with your natal node, if that makes sense. I feel like I took the long way of like explaining that, but I'm a little tired, y'all, so just forgive me. Hold on, let me go get my charger. Alrighty. Because we can just start. I do, Marie. You can contact me at astroworld, that's astro, WERLD, at gmail.com. I went ahead and put it in the chat. How did the Aries full moon affect me? Girl, I wanted to whoop some ass. That's how it affected me. It transited my 7th house. I was angry. Very angry. But I decided to channel it in a positive manner and do some working out, some exercise. Okay, here we go. You said same. Hey, love. Will this affect someone who has Scorpio on the South Node? Yes. Like I said, you'll be experiencing your nodal return. So let me check the likes so we can go ahead and get started. Yeah, we got 44 people in the chat and 23 likes. So let's get these likes up. Hey, Black Goddess. The same with the North Node. Oh, North Node. Yeah, like I said, you'll be having your inverse nodal return. So if you have Scorpio on the South Node, it'll be your nodal return. If it's on the North Node, it'll be your inverse nodal return. The current transiting South Node is in Sagittarius. And so the nodes actually move backwards. Okay, which is why we wouldn't be going from Sagittarius on the South Node to Capricorn, or yeah, Sagittarius to Capricorn. It's Sagittarius and then Scorpio. You know, because the nodes, I think, yeah, prior to this, the nodes were actually, the South Node was in Capricorn. So it moves backwards, which is why it's occurring in that particular order. Okay, I'm gonna just go ahead and get started. So, like I was saying, initially, I mean, when talking about nodes, I did a whole workshop with nodes. Shout out to Novi. Um, the lunar nodes in general are just karmic checkpoints, if you will, that on an individual level serve as kind of like a roadmap in terms of our soul's evolution. So you have the South Node, which deals with unresolved issues. It could deal with unhealthy attachments. It could deal with, you know, things and modes of operation that we just naturally kind of cling to. But a lot of times, once again, they're associated with like either unhealthy attachments or they can bring a lot of problems. A lot of times, the South Node is a trap, right? A lot of the energy tied to your South Node would be a trap. And it could also even deal with, you know, on a collective level, like underpinnings of society or things that could really draw us back as a society or could prevent us from moving forward, or where a lot of, you know, controversy and things like that could take place. The North Node can too, but the operative of the North Node is to evolve and to learn how to activate and lean into those energies and cultivate those energies as opposed to the South Node energy, which may seem a lot more familiar, which may be a lot more comfortable to do. But you know, you're supposed to grow, evolve, so to speak. And so just like we all have our own natal lunar nodal placements. I mean, the only reason we have natal lunar nodal placements is because, from a collective standpoint, a transiting standpoint, the nodes are always going to be stationed in, you know, polarizing signs, and they travel throughout the year. And so, without getting too far into that, because that's a different conversation for a different day. Today, we're going to discuss what happens when transiting South Node leaves Sagittarius and finds its way into Scorpio. Okay. Now, quite a few things tend to happen. There's going to be a societal reset, which could be ushered in by instability and drastic change. And this change will be most notable for fixed signs. So my Leo placements, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus placements are definitely going to feel this the most. Okay. Or if, let's say, you have these signs in a cardinal house. So, that, or which is also known as the cadent house. So the first, the fourth, the seventh, or the 10th house. Scorpio is the sign of crisis. With Sagittarius being carefree, you could look at, this transiting Sagittarius South Node as setting us up from a collective standpoint, of course, for being carefree, living high on the hog. A lot of us could be blinded by, optimism and whatnot. But when the South Node moves into Scorpio, many of us are faced with sobering instances of trauma, anguish, and pain. Okay. There are going to come a lot of endings. So, putting an end to a lot of things and a lot of dramatic endings at that. This is a time where we could run into a dead end, or it could signify a kind of energy where something that's no longer working could kind of be run into the ground, or where we could become obsessive, with salvaging certain things. Okay. And if you're somebody who kind of moves in this energy in general, once again, this is going to be, it's just going to be, you're going to have a harder time than most. They could deal with things that could be on their last leg. Some of y'all are probably on y'all last leg, and this transit is going to be the tipping point, for better or for worse. On the individual or even collective level, there could be a ushering in, once again, of like an ending phase, circumstance, or a relationship. So maybe a period of your life could be coming to an end. And this is why I use the death card. The death card in tarot is ruled by Scorpio, right? So it could be the death. Like we can be very literal in terms of death, which I'll get to that in a minute. I don't want to sugarcoat that, but it doesn't necessarily always have to mean literal death. It could just mean, once again, the ending of, and a lot of times these endings can be really painful. Think about, even when we're talking about like a relationship. So for those of you guys who could have Scorpio on the descendant, so all of my Taurus ascendants, right? This could be, you know, breaking up with somebody who you've been with for a very long time, right? And where breakups for these people naturally always kind of feel like death. So it's kind of like that, right? Or like I said, moving on from one period of your life to the next, and so on and so forth. Scorpio is also the sign of extremes, and having it on the transiting South Node will make this a quality that could be mirrored by society. Thinking along the lines of black and white, right? Which is something that a lot of people are going to be doing, especially when Uranus becomes conjoined to the North Node. Okay. Worshiping someone or something, or despising it altogether. And so celebrities and public figures with Scorpio on the North or South Node, or prominent Scorpio placements, should beware. Same thing with, once again, even celebrities with fixed signs. And I don't know why intuitively Meg the Stallion came to mind. I know it ain't the Stallion. Because she's a Scorpio North Node. She's a Leo moon and an Aquarius sun, so lots of fixed energy. And she is a very polarizing person anyway. She receives a lot. I mean, she has a very cult-like following, but just as much love she receives a lot of hate. And just intuitively, I do feel like there is going to be a scandal that comes about with her. So this is my first prediction for this Scorpio South Node transit. And I also think this could even extend over into members of like government and things like that. And I pulled some cards earlier today, especially as it pertains to Joe Biden, because he came up in one of my earlier spreads. And at first, I'm like, is this man gonna kick the bucket? Because he's another one who has a lot of Scorpio energy. He's a Leo. He may be a Leo North node. He's a Leo North or South node, but once again, lots of fixed energy. So I'm like, is this man gonna kick the bucket or something? But he could also be caught up in a scandal, or there could be a lot of events that come to light as it pertains to him. And like I said, just members of the government in general. Okay. But so yeah, people should definitely be mindful of that. There are going to be a lot of strong and dogmatic convictions, especially with that Taurus North Node, which does create the perfect environment for the rise of a lot of cult leaders. Which shout out to Rabina Rastafine. She always calls Taurus the sign of the cult leader. And I could definitely see that being the case with Scorpio on the South Node. There will also be a huge shift in our economic framework. And this is really interesting considering that uh, not the last time the transiting South Node was in Scorpio, but I believe back in 1929, to be exact. It kicked off the Great Depression, and the South Node transited to Scorpio, I think that next year, so in 1930. And then that kind of just propelled the entire country throughout the rest of the 30s, through like the Great Depression, which is very interesting because we've been on the brink. I mean, we've actually been in an economic depression um, long before long before December of this year. But another prediction is that you could look for things to worsen, right? So there are going to be lots of public discussion. It's going to get to a point where you can't ignore it. Okay. Um, there could also be a major increase in the debt and deficit. You'll hear a lot of more people talking about that, especially like government figures and things or people of that sort. Um, Banking and stock market crises could be on the horizon as well. So if you are someone who holds your money in stocks, bank accounts, basically the whole LLC Twitter, to get money while y'all out there gossiping. We out here building and networking. Them niggas, tell them niggas to get their shit in order. 'Cause it's gonna go left. Okay. These are people who could be at risk for losing everything. Even if you have like a 401k plan, or you know what I'm saying, it's things are gonna get very risky, keeping your money or relying on banks or public institutions and things like that. The old saying of like everyone's grandma, like the black grandmama keeping her money in the mattress because she didn't trust the banks. That's very Taurus North Node. So with Taurus on the North Node, we have to learn how to rely more on what is physical. Like what can I fit in my hand? Now, am I necessarily suggesting everybody take their money out of the banks? I mean, you do whatever you feel is best. I don't want the weight of that recommendation. I'm not going to say that per se, but just know there could be a lot of shady business, especially if you're somebody who has lots and lots and lots of money, just tied up in certain things and investments, and you know, it's going to get really gully. Okay, in terms of like financially, we have to learn how to shift towards being less dependent on, like I said, banks and other financial institutions, especially when Uranus conjoins the North Node and Taurus, which could bring about a repeat of just 2020 in terms of job loss, instability, insecurity. So what we saw last year in 2020 was just a sample. It was just a little taste. It was a little preview. The full fledged film. The feature film is coming momentarily. Okay. Massive debt could be acquired. So once again, people talking about like from a national standpoint, the debt and the deficit, but also even on the individual level. Lots of bankruptcies, repossessions, pawn shops maybe booming, people trying to cash in what they had to, get a few extra dollars worth of change. Inflation could be crazy during this time. And you'll also notice drastically increased prices. So price gouging out the wazoo. Higher taxes on goods. So you'll go to the grocery store and, you know, they already had a shortage of chicken wings. And us girls, us Atlanta girls, we almost had a stroke. So, ain't no telling. You might go to the store looking for some chicken wingettes and it'd be like $20. So there's definitely something that's going to be on the horizon in between there being a lot of just increased taxes when it comes to like American like trade and our agriculture, but also our weather being affected. So like farmers being affected and there being droughts and people not really being able to produce the way that they want to on a mass level, which is really going to leave it up to us on an individual level to be a lot more reliant, excuse me, a lot more self-reliant and sustainable. And I'll get more into that later. Okay. So yeah, and even just in terms of regular taxes, like the taxes that we pay to the government and things like that around, there could be an increase in taxes or a call to rewire our taxation system. Okay. Huge changes within the insurance industry. They could become strained or bankrupt altogether, or it could even become more powerful. And that's something else that I do even intuitively feel that could come about from this transit. Also, lots of lower vibrational entities are going to be felt. A lot of spirits, a lot of demonic attachments, a lot of lower vibrational spirits are definitely going to have an impact on a lot of people's behavior. A lot of people are going to be showing their dark side. The underbelly of society is going to be coming out to play. People indulging in their lower nature is going to be very prevalent when Scorpio is in, or the South Node is in Scorpio, rather. And this could include hypersexuality. And these are things that could even be reflected in, like, let's say, art, culture. But even, if you turn on the news, there could be, an uptick in crime or something like that, right? Lots of deviance, especially sexual deviance. And with Saturn and Jupiter and Aquarius squaring the nodes, shocking truths could be revealed. So if you are Chester, if you were Robert, I mean, your day is coming. Same thing on a government level. And it could also even just imply that a lot of these activities could really be, ramped up, which, I heard, okay, I heard it was brought to me that Biden was flying out minors unaccompanied on a plane or something like that. And I'm not gonna go in at length because I know how these girls like to tussle. Okay. But I'm gonna just sit that right here. And I'm gonna leave it alone. And I'm gonna let y'all connect the dots the way you would like to from there. So a lot of very shifty activity going on, you know, and I do feel like a lot of those things could be exposed at some level or another. And this is a time where people definitely have to be mindful of what you allow to take root, both within your mind or just the people around you. Like, being mindful of the attachments that you made. Some of the worst parts of humanity are revealed when this transit in South Node is in Scorpio. There could be an abuse of power on a collective level. So once again, whether it be banks, I mean, to be real, banks and insurance companies and institutions like that, they run our society anyway. So to fathom them being more powerful is crazy, right? Or like I said, there could be just a major upset in the system and how it's run. There could be a lot of evil, tragedy, temptations, major shocking deaths, especially celebrity deaths. That's another prediction. I don't wish death on anyone at all, so God bless, but I do predict there being a big, shocking, untimely celebrity death or the death of a public figure within the next 18 months that could come about that really is gonna like be very symbolic of like this transit. Mass death events. Okay, so this is where we could interpret that death card quite literally. And as you can see on the death card, it's a nigga laid flat on the grass. Okay. Um, it just is what it is. It is what it is. What's done in the dark comes to light is the phrase that I always think about when I think about that Scorpio South Node, right? Even transiting Scorpio South Node. Sickness thrives in the darkness. So a lot of uh, you know, underhanded activity, a lot of um secrets, you know, secret societies at play, or a lot of people manipulating things behind the scenes. But like I said, whatever's done in dark definitely comes to light. So dwelling in this kind of energy in your lower nature, um dwelling in your shadow side, although I did note that shadow work needs to be done on the individual level when you have transiting South Node and Scorpio, which I mean, people say that, right? Like, oh, shadow work, way easier said than done. Like, quite literally facing your demons, or else they're going to run you. Because once again, it's very pivotal. It's very important to keep your vibrations high and not to sound like spiritual Twitter, not to sound like vegan Twitter, not to sound like love and light Twitter, but keeping your elevating yourself and keeping your vibrations high is going to be very important, because if not, you'll be overtaken, because we're going to be dealing with a lot of like I said, darkness, everyone. Okay, this transit could definitely bring out the worst in a lot of people. There could be an increased interest in occultism, as well as even a need to seek out a therapist if you need to. Seek out a counselor. People could also be experiencing heightened paranormal experiences. And like I said, this could be because of the ushering in of a lot of demonic entities. And I mean, demons or lower vibrational spirits have always kind of ruled Earth. And, depending on your religion or whatever the case may be, there's a lot of theology that could support that. But just from an astrological standpoint, like, how you'll turn on the TV and see just a really crazy ass crime, like somebody do some horrific shit and you're like, that's the devil. Like, and you see the person's mugshot and you just look at their eyes. I don't know if any of y'all have ever had that experience, but I have on several occasions, and I look at that person and I'm like, yeah, they're possessed. That's a demonic attachment. Like, that person, I don't know how long that demon has been living inside of them, but it activated. And that's why I said you have to learn how to control your lower nature and face your shadow side. Because, like I said, for some people, it could be their sexual deviance and stuff like that. And an example I always like to use with Scorpio on the South Node, although of course this would be natally, would be R. Kelly. R. Kelly, he's a Scorpio South Node, and that's like the perfect embodiment of that, like predatory, deviant, like couldn't control his lower nature, like, so that's the type of energy on a collective level, and even on the individual level, depending on where this falls within your chart, what house this falls in, that a lot of people could be dealing with. If you are in the streets, if you're a career criminal, like, the crime, there will be an uptick in crime, and it just is what it is. Uptick in robberies, murders, rape, and it's kind of scary to me, because these are things that happen no matter what. But with the South Node in Scorpio is going to be very pronounced. And think about it, especially if our economic infrastructure crumbles. Think about the Great Depression. Think about what happens with people, and once again, I live in Atlanta, or at least the metro Atlanta area. I'm not like within like directly in the city limits, but I will say, as someone who's just I'm typically all over, there we've noticed like even since the pandemic, the panoramic, it's affected people in a huge way in terms of there being an uptick or upswing in violence and robberies because you can't go to the rich people side of town no more. It's not, and I think that's why it's becoming an issue because when it only happened in, our communities, quote unquote, nobody really cared. But when people started getting desperate, when people started losing jobs, when things started to become very unsure and uncertain for a lot of people, yeah, the popular sentiment, especially amongst people who already just kind of have that criminal kind of tendency, I'm finna go get mine. AKA, I'm gonna go to Lenox Mall and we're gonna we're gonna rob the next motherfucker who walk out this bitch because y'all got money. We're gonna ride over to Buckhead and we're gonna rob, this whole row of houses. We're gonna kick down some doors. We're gonna do a lot of car burglaries, which is interesting because Transit North Node is in Gemini. Gemini rules cars. But point is, especially with that Taurus North Node dealing with like our values and possessions and things like that, things that we work really hard for. If you're not careful, somebody can try to take those things from you. You know what I mean? So just stuff like that. So if you are someone with Scorpio on the nodes, this is not to say you're going to get robbed, like, definitively, right? But it's just to say that, like, I would be extra cautious, you know? I would be like a little extra cautious, just even in terms of like protecting myself. Um, yeah, just in terms of just protecting yourself, trusting your gut when it comes to people and places and situations and things like that. There could also be an uptick in abuse, and more, I guess you could say, a lot more prosecutions that we'll see on a public platform, especially when it comes to white collar crime like forgery, manipulation of stocks, tax evasion. Okay. And it's funny because, a lot of people did do the PPP situation back, what, it was this year, last year. So I don't know. A lot of y'all motherfuckers going to jail. Okay. There could be a lot of undercover operations, especially if you are someone who, once again, is getting money in an illegal or underhanded way. Scammers, especially with Saturn and Aquarius squares and nodes, that could be a big sting or bust of some kind, or people could be under a lot of surveillance, especially, and that's another thing, even on the individual level. And this is another prediction I have. A lot of our freedoms, a lot of our liberties are going to be severely restricted or infringed upon, because the tech state, right? Like these tech companies are going to abuse their power. It is what it is. So when Saturn in Aquarius squares this transiting Scorpio South node, a lot of people could be under surveillance. Okay. This could also even be indicative of a cyber crime that could be exposed, or like a breach in security or something like that. Also, the squares between Saturn and Aquarius could even create a boom on the black web or the black market. And like I said, when you tie that back into like the government, because Saturn does deal with the government, like I said, it's some things going on. There could be lots of detective work. Like I said, banks and other institutions could become even more corrupt, like predatory loans and things like that may be, really big. There could also be an increase of, I think I said this already, natural disasters, mass death, agricultural shortage, running out of things, scarcity, droughts, and that could lead to more resource hoarding. Because what's the first thing people do when you tell somebody there's a scarcity? They become greedy, which is actually the downside of that Taurus North node. People become straight up greedy. Like I remember at the beginning of the panoramic when, oh, well, oh, there's a shortage of toilet paper, and next thing you know, everybody, is buying up toilet paper left and right, or they hear, the British are coming. Let me go get all the toilet paper. Now my butt walking in Walmart, and I'm like, what I'm gonna wipe my booty with? What I'm gonna wipe my booty with? Like, what's going on? Like, it's greed. It's greed. It's greed. And like I said, even leading to the downside of that Taurus energy, which is just hoarding. You're holding on to stuff just because you're afraid, and that's really what it's going to be the energy from a collective standpoint that a lot of people are going to be in. Like, if you're out of alignment, of course. If you're in alignment, we'll talk about how it looks when you're in alignment with that Taurus North Node. But if you're leaning too much into that Taurus energy and you're out of alignment, it could easily turn into like greed and things like that. There could also be a depletion of resources as well. People needing to be, like I said, more self-reliant and pushing towards sustainability. This could even lead to like whether it be, starting or planting your own garden, growing your own food, having your own farm, which is something that a lot of people are doing now, hence Uranus and Taurus. So there's that. Um, you know, as a collective, we could be enamored with mystery. This transit is also going to be psychologically and emotionally taxing. For a lot of us, our endurance will be tested. There could also be more developments in psychology. Also, issues with trash disposal, a lot of unsustainable ways of life having to be reckoned with. Even like when it comes to like burying people, because that's all about that Scorpio energy, right? Scorpio in the South Node, like burying the dead. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a conversation came up about like more environment like friendly ways of disposing of your loved one's remains. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, that's very Scorpio South Node, Taurus North Node. There could be sewage or plumbing problems, especially if you are a Leo ascendant, like because this would be taking place in your fourth house. Uh, you know, a pipe could bust, or the plumbing could over flood, in the house or something like that, or issues with your basement, all that kind of stuff. Or it could even lead to like infestation problems too. So rats and roaches and gnats and flies and all of that. I also get that viral infections there could be an uptick in viral infections, which is very interesting, but because of the pandemic we've been in, right? So if they don't come out with another variant, I could definitely see there being, some more advancements with that. Like, I don't think we're completely done with that. As well as like people pushing the jab. Scorpio does deal with injections and that kind of thing. There could also be a resurgence of gothic or emo culture and just a natural sense of fascination with like the taboo of society. So all things that would normally be taboo, such as sex, death, like I said, occultism and things like that, could be very prevalent. Very, very prevalent. I also would be mindful of doing any spell. Well, not that you can't do spell work, but all spell work done with the Scorpio South Node transit could be amplified, but you have to be careful because it could backfire, especially if you're doing like left-handed work or trying to curse somebody. So there's that. Now, getting into this Taurus North Node, okay, if you're in alignment, having Taurus on the North Node encourages us to rebuild a sense of normalcy and place a lot of stock and a lot of value onto normative behavior, playing by societal rules. Now, with Uranus being conjoined to Taurus, this Taurus North Node, society could be built off of a socialistic framework, or there could be a point in time where we have to sit back and kind of figure out what we want society to look like, or where there could be a lot of socialistic concepts that we end up kind of like modeling ourselves afterwards. For example, when the Uranus transit, Uranus and Taurus happened or I think when it came into effect, or it was transiting something, but or excuse me, it was aspecting something. But point is, when it activated, a lot of people started getting like the stimulus checks or unemployment. And so, that could be another huge kind of byproduct of that because those are socialistic programs, right? There could be a lot of rules and guidelines people would have to follow. This could deal with a need to level up, even on like a personal level, engaging the world around you with a strong sense of standards and values and integrity is going to be very important. Okay. That's why it's, resisting the temptation to kind of dwell in your lower nature. Um, is going to be important to resist that because a lot of times you're going to have to make decisions that may not be the easiest thing to do. They could require more work, but if it allows your integrity to remain intact, then that's what you're supposed to be doing. There could be a desire to once again get back to decency. Advisors will be in high demand, especially financial advisors. And when Uranus is conjoined to that North Node, even like astrologers, and I noticed that too, with Uranus and Taurus, just in general, the mainstream of astrology. And a lot of people have been coming to me for advice. Okay. Now, not spending more than what you have is going to be important in this particular season. And finding salvation and keeping things light. Keep it light. Pack light. Ooh, ooh. It's not that deep is one of the main catchphrases for Scorpio on the South Node. Being present, engaging in grounding exercises, getting back to nature is going to be something that could help a lot of people kind of combat the, intensity of this Scorpio South Node transit, getting back to the basics, securing your foundation financially, emotionally, making sure you're sturdy, and that word self-sustainability once again even as a collective. There could be more convos about America making our own goods, moving away from outsourcing, and making sure that everybody in your boat is rowing. No freebies, no freeloaders. If you the freeloader, do what you need to do, right? It's about earning your keep when Taurus or transiting North Node is in Taurus. And these are themes that you can see interwoven into society, whether people are talking about these things more or whatever the case may be. Um, Placing stock in people, places, and things that are reliable. So focusing on things that are pragmatic. What can I see? What can I trust? Even when we're talking about like moving away from, banks and or being overly reliant on banks and even when it comes to credit, like if you don't have the money, don't buy it. Quite literally, quite literally. And I know that's gonna hit my fellow Libra ascendants a little different, okay? With Scorpio in the second house. If you don't have the money, don't get it. Because a lot of people could mess up their credit, okay, during this time if it ain't already messed up. Um, Also, new jobs, there could be an influx of new jobs or even people receiving unearned income. People could also be getting a lot more creative. So, like I said, turning to art, unlocking your artistic potential. Okay. Also, learning how to work for yourself. Entrepreneurship could go up. People wanting to run a business or familiarizing themselves with business, starting their own. Lots of business majors, right? People who can seek out to get their MBA or whatever the case may be. And this is also going to usher in the peak of high value culture. And I know that's a conversation, especially on Black YouTube, that a lot of people have been talking about. I'm high value, I'm low value, and all of that. That could also be like a residual effect of Uranus and Taurus, but it ushers in the constant appraisals of others. You can even look at because Uranus does deal with the internet, so with Uranus and Taurus, and especially once it becomes conjoined to this transiting North Node, like lots of internet discussions where people are going to be, valuing one group of people and devaluing another group of people. Even in terms of people wanting their credit, I know y'all hear a lot of celebrities say that too. That's why I said for a lot of Leos, this is going to come into effect. And Leo does represent celebrities. give me my flowers. Everybody want their flowers and their credit. I'm like, listen, we all out of flowers, okay? Okay, I'm not a motherfucking florist. We out of flowers, but everybody, everybody gonna want their credit. They want their flowers. Um, the demand for like I said, art and creative outlets will also increase, but you'll see how the nodes will play into one another because you know a lot of the art is going to reflect a lot of that Scorpio South Node energy. So like I said, whether it's like grunge or emo music, trap music, not to say that those things aren't already uh you know prevalent, but they could be mainstream, I guess is what I'm saying. Like a lot of people are going to be inspired by that Scorpio South Node. So when you see a lot of people, making more music about sex or more conversations being had about sex and psychology and death and this and that, like that'll definitely you'll see it reflected in our society, right? In many ways. There could be a rise in culinary arts, or like I said before, individual farms and gardens. Um, There could also even be lots of artificial food or like the food industry striving towards convenience, which makes sense because they want to stretch things. And that's where you get into like cloning meat, GMOs, and all that stuff. And then finally, one of the most important things to keep in mind with this transit is to lay your cards on the table, all of your cards on the table. Okay, use your throat chakra, which Taurus does rule the throat, to clear any unaddressed issues that could lead to resentment or whatever the case may be. Okay. Now, with that being said, I'm going to read the comments and then we can talk about some of the events that took place the last time or the last few times the transiting nodes or the transiting South Node was in Scorpio. You've been celibate for 2 years now. It'll be 3. Yeah, it be like that. You're a Scorpio moon and South Node. Yeah. It seems like it'll be intense. And I'll go over what it means individually. I'll probably make a video on Patreon about how this could play out for people like individually within the individual houses. What about starting a business, like a small business? Yeah, a lot of people may have to resort to that. Okay. So, just some events that happened in the previous years that transiting South Node was in Scorpio. Um, One of them, of course, I named the Great Depression. Shout out to Novi because I was watching her transit video and she named that, and I said, "Oh, that's right, I forgot that." But also some other ones that I found. On May 23rd in 1999, the euro exceeded its initial trading value as it hit $1.18 for the first time. So I mean, or well, no, actually, this was 2004. I want to say. But point is, it kind of touches on this theme of like currency. There being a lot of updates to our currency, even how a lot of people are talking about like Bitcoin and things like that. Like you'll hear more about that in the upcoming year, trying to find other forms of currency and all of these things, right? In 1930, there was a tariff act that was sponsored by Senator Reed Smoot, where he raised tariff levels on imported goods. And then the foreign trading partners retaliated by doing the same. So it reinforces this theme of lot of skyrocketed taxes, lots of shortages. On September 28th, 2004, the $50 bill was released or redesigned and released, and it contained many of the security features as its $20 counterpart. So they basically just reinvented, which is like, another way that you can kind of look at Scorpio on the south node. But then with that Taurus north node, it's like, yeah, we reinvented the currency. So once again, changes to our currency, or even like, the banks, or what kind of backs and supports our currency and stuff like that. Also in 2004, December of 2004, there was that Indian tsunami. Now, because I'm weird like that and I like watching documentaries on natural disasters, I remember like, reading and watching about this, because this happened like around Christmas in 2004. And it was on like the coast, like a whole bunch of coasts in India. But there was like this really big tsunami that killed so many people, and it was so deadly. And that ties back to what I was saying about natural disasters and mass death events. Like, so many people were killed. Like, the death toll was astronomical. It was so crazy. When I tell you, it had me scared to go to the beach, because it was like a lot of American tourists, people who thought they were just gonna go, to certain parts of India and spend their Christmas, and it just came out of nowhere. People was talking about how, they was watching the shoreline recede, and then boom, the tsunami hit, and it was crazy. And that's another reason why you got to get connected to nature too, with that Taurus North Node, because them animals be telling your ass. Okay, it was elephants and shit running around like, gotta go, gotta go right now, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. They be letting you know when the natural disasters finna strike. So when you see me flying on the back of an eagle, or running with an elephant, running with the dogs and the cats, don't ask no questions. You just start running too. And then finally, you know transiting Scorpio, or transiting South Node, excuse me, was in the sign of Scorpio in the years 1984 to 1986. And this was the peak of the AIDS epidemic, which, could also be very much symbolic of that Scorpio South Node. From a viral standpoint, okay, that Scorpio South Node could deal with like viruses, but even from the standpoint of like it killed so many people. Like, it was another one of those mass death events where it was just crazy. You remember that tsunami? Yeah. Maybe this will be a time to start my OnlyFans. You're not showing no kitty. I mean, do it while you can. Purple Rain came out in 84. Prince was a Scorpio rising. Oh, interesting. The vax versus the unvax is already a thing. Yep. Okay, so I didn't want to make this a very long video. I'll definitely keep this up, but hopefully you guys have a better understanding of this Scorpio South Node transit, and I will holla at y'all later. Bye.